from Hazel. Everyone else is here, I see. So could I have a mover? Thanks, Graham. Seconder, thanks, Mike. All in favour? Contrary, no. Carried. Disclosure of members' interests. Nothing. Okay. And late items. No. All right. Confirmation of order of the meeting. Not a big meeting and no changes, Ken?
No, there shouldn't need to be.
Okay. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, Lou. All in favour? Contrary, no. That's carried. Confirmation of minutes. So have a look on pages 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That being it. Any comments? Any changes required? No? Happy to move. Thanks, Claire. Seconder, thanks, Philip. All in favour? Contrary, no. That's carried. And we'll move to the 4 months report. Welcome, Nada. So this meeting is a week later than normal to let that forecast work its way through the system, or have a lot of work done on it, actually, I guess. So, yeah, Nada, it's all yours. Oh.
Okay. We are forecasting an operating surplus of 27.6 million, which is $1 million higher than the budget. Yeah. Hopefully.
Sorry, some of it's non-cash.
Got a bit excited. Yeah. The operating revenue is forecast to be approximately 1.3 million higher than budget, and the operating expenditure is forecasting to be 285,000 higher. Operating income is at 28% of the full year forecast, and operating expenditure is at 27%. Gross revenue from significant activities is 31%, and gross expenditure from significant activities is currently at 28%. We have capital expenditure forecasting at 161.9 million compared to the budget of 186.6. And our debt, capital expenditure to date, sorry, is at 35.9 million, which is at 22% of the forecast. And our external loans is at 70.4 million, and it is forecast, we are currently forecasting it to be at 173.5 at the end of the year. And I'll take the rest of it as being read, and if there's any questions.
Clear.
Yeah, thanks, Nada. On the first page, it talks about the operating expenditure and the major variances. In the bottom, it says engineering work on 101 Bank Street of $95,000, which wasn't, it was a variance. So what exactly was that engineering work?
So when, I'm pretty sure it's from when they took out our wall in finance, and they've found a big crack in the floor. Yeah.
So through the chair, that's exactly right. We have found some cracking in the building, but John, you're there. You could potentially just talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so there's some cracks diagonally across the floors that are There's some cracks in the slab that we discovered when we removed that wall upstairs. They're probably shrinkage cracks when the slab was poured, but we have found some type 3 cracks which run along the central core, along the wall in the staff room upstairs. So we got GDC, have given an estimate to do some work to look at x-raying it and where the steel connections are. So they should be here on the weekend to do that work and then give us a report as to how we can reconnect what we need to reconnect back to the central core, if that's required. So
I've got a couple of other questions, if that's okay. Like over the rest of the report, like in the capital expenditure, it says that that the Vale Court purchase was funded from reserves, but earlier it said it was funded from loans. Is that the same terminology, that might be an internal loan?
Actually, I'm not looking at the specific references, but there's two things going on at Vale Court. So one is the development of the 10 new units. So that's one project. The other one that may be referred to, as you will recall, that we bought the piece of land immediately adjacent off the Cosy Club. So it might just depend, and actually again, just looking to John, it might depend which of those projects it is. But bearing in mind that that housing for the elderly is a totally ring-fenced activity anyway. So whether it's funded by loan or funded by reserves, it's out of those housing for the elderly reserves, and any loan is paid from the ring-fence money as well. So yeah.
Just another thing was in the statement of capital expenditure, there's no vested assets in this period. Like, is that a concern? I presume it's to do with developer timing, but it seems unusual in 4 months with all of the activity that are going on, we haven't received any vested assets.
That possibly could be
Good one.
a just a workflow issue with because I know our asset accountant has been busy helping with the LTP, so yeah.
Yeah, so through the chair, sometimes there is a bit of catch up. I mean, we do try to process the vested assets as quickly as possible, but bearing in mind the finance team have just been preparing an annual report, and as Nada says, a bit of activity happening as well with LTPs at the moment. We may have got a bit behind.
Yeah, definitely, and we're going to try and do a big push to get some of those through. So it looks a bit healthier.
And then in the capital variances, it mentions that the Pirongia toilets upgrade, that there was a budget of $52,000 was transferred to it. And I thought that I thought that project was paid for, half with tourism infrastructure money and then half from us. So I was a bit surprised that another 52,000 was needed. Yeah.
What page are you on?
It's on page 36 of your report and page 53 of the agenda. And it's in the last bullet point, sort of in the middle of the last bullet point.
Yeah, so through the chair, I mean, you're quite correct. There was a large amount of government funding essentially that came in for that project, but look, I'm not too close to the details, so we may.
Yeah, I'm just trying to rack my brain. Sorry, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I might have to get back to you on that one. If that's okay. Yeah.
Well, it looks like it's come through cheaper than.
Said that there was funding transferred from amenity reserves to the project. So that's,
I might have to get back to you, but I'm kind of thinking that it was just a transfer from one area to another, but yeah.
Yeah,
I'll-
yeah, it might have been that.
I'll look it up and get
Yeah,
back to you.
Yeah, thank you. We're getting great comments about those toilets, but
Yeah.
Hmm.
there was just one other item in the activities section, so I don't know if you're covering that or not. With the non-financial reporting.
Oh, okay. I think Amy was supposed to be here, but she might be running late.
What have you got there?
Well,
Tracy?
in the wastewater treatment and disposal activity, that's on page 58 of our agenda, and the comment in the middle of the table at the bottom of the page, it's about compliance with sewage systems. It says that the Cambridge wastewater treatment plant, it'll be applied for from, not WDC, but I imagine it's going to be applied from Waikato Regional Council.
Yeah, so through the chair, I would, I mean, it's a little bit out of my knowledge area, but yes, I would have imagined it would be Waikato Regional Council that would be giving a consent for the wastewater treatment plant. So yeah, so look, I think you can take it that should be WRC, and I noticed actually the word immediately before there's a typo. So yeah, from rather than form. So yeah, so look, yeah, look, I think you could very confidently take it that this will be applied for from WRC once the short-term consent is received. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, right. Okay, cool. Yep, good. Oh, that's right. Yes, yes. Okay, good. Good stuff.
Thanks, Claire. Any other questions for Nada?
So, yeah, so I think just through the chair, look, it might be worthwhile just having a look at page 24, so 24, 25, 26, where there's some relatively significant graphs that are showing there. So look, yeah, perhaps just to walk you through those. So external debt. So you can see the actually focus on the left hand side of the page rather than the right hand side, because as the note says, we haven't actually done any reprojections for 21-22 yet for next year. But yeah, I think it's good for you to actually understand what's happening on the debt front. So you can see that that in the annual plan we were expecting around about $182 million, or just over $180 million of debt in the annual plan. Our forecast has now dropped that figure down a notch. Okay, so so good to be aware of that. On the next page, you see a relatively similar profile happening with the capital expenditure, although perhaps a little bit more exaggerated in terms of the capital expenditure. Where you can see you can see the green bar showing the annual plan figure. But quite a significant forecast back in terms of capital expenditure in the red bar. And then just to complete the set of the three graphs, bottom of page 25, the rates growth. So you can see that despite the fact, obviously, that the impact of COVID, etc. We're tracking pretty well there in terms of rates growth, which is coming from various capital developments. Whether it just be a straight out capital development or a new dwelling, etc. So you can see that the red bar in each of those years is significantly higher. The amount of rates growth is significantly higher than what we were anticipating in the blue bars. So so that's that bodes well. And of course these three graphs we've obviously the information behind the three graphs has been very crucial in informing obviously our draft LTP, as we spoke to you about last week. It's coming from this sort of information set.
Thanks for that, Ken. Yeah.
Question
Yeah,
through
certainly,
to
mate.
Ken. When when we build new houses, Ken,
Mm-hmm.
they say the house is finished in, say, September.
Yes,
It gets rated on its land value until the 1st of July the next year.
correct.
Is there any move in local government New Zealand whereby they could bring those rates to the full capital value and rates in the quarter that it gets signed off as a code of compliance? Because really, you've got a whole lot of revenue that we miss out on, and it's kind of a freebie for the people in the house. And I don't mean to be trying to, but it seems to me that it would be significant in a growth area like Waipa, and maybe something that we need to take to local government New Zealand and ask for that situation to change. I don't know whether it's historical or what the reason for it, but I just raised it. There may be some people around here that don't understand.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. So look, through the chair, I mean, I guess it's a function of the legislation. So the legislation very clearly says that you can only set your rates once a year. They're effectively set on 1 July at 1 July values. So there is no mechanism at the moment in the rating legislation for rating something that comes along after 1st of July until 1st of July the following year. That's our one opportunity a year to pick up on any new rating value is at 1 July at the start of the year. So what we obviously do in that respect is there is a mad scramble in the lead up to 1 July to make sure that any valuation information that comes through, and in fact we and every other council in the land puts a lot of pressure on our VSP, our valuation service provider, to get those values into us so that we can get them into the rating information database and the valuation database, so that we can actually rate from the 1st of July that year. But unfortunately no way at all under legislative provisions to progressively rate during the year. What it is at 1 July is what it is.
Federal government they talk about some of the councils aren't cash rich and all those things, but it's hard to run a proper business when you're being nobbled by some outdated legislation. And it needs updating so that we are not nobbled. I mean, if you went collectively around New Zealand to see what that rating impact comes in, it could be a serious amount of
absolutely, yes. Well, certainly in high growth areas it would be, and then I guess even in the areas that aren't enjoying high growth, those are councils that could probably badly do with the extra rating revenue. So yes, correct. Yeah, just not paying until the start of the next rating year.
Excuse me.
Okay.
The other side of that, of course, is that we set our rates as a total, not expecting an incremental income as we go through the year.
Correct. Yes.
So we'd have to change the whole basis of how we did stuff.
Yes. So I think what you're saying, Chair, is if the legislation was to allow progressive rating during the year, we'd actually have to anticipate that in our budgets and therefore rate less at the start of the year, wouldn't we? In anticipation, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and that sounds really messy.
Yes.
No, you're quite right there. Thank you for that. So, do we have any further questions for Nada or Ken? No, that being the case, thanks Nada, really comprehensive report with lots of great explanations. So that's very good. So I have a recommendation on page 15 that the report be clear.
And just that recommendation, there's a little bit of a typo in that. I think the bottom of it, the last clause. Yeah, an increase of 863,000. Yeah, and for the property services budget for purchase of land from Cambridge.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah. Thanks, Claire. Thanks, Lou. All in favour? Contrary, no. Carried. Thank you very much. Thanks, Nada. Item 7. Quarterly Property Services Report. Welcome, John and Scott. Hi. You can go and sit up there if you like, Scott.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this relates to the 1st of July, 30th of September quarter. Financial update, they're mainly timing issues. So forestry income, we're looking at potentially harvesting that forest, part of the forest, January to April next year. Carapera domain forecast is down, but we expect that to be in line at the end of the year. Community properties, that relates to the subdivision of the piece of land we've got at the cemetery, Tiamutu Cemetery, that we're looking at selling on. Just that's sold up a bit at the moment. We're looking at whether we can get 8 or 11 sections out of that. Once we get that answer, we get that underway. Similar with operating expenditure, forestry, that will come back into line once we start that work. Housing's down, it's higher due to depreciation costs. And then capital expenditure, again, that relates to the Turaha Road property. Housing Vale Court, as we mentioned previously, so we're hoping to have that final design completed by the end of this month. And Bruce is working on the tender at the moment to go out early in the new year and hopefully commence works March, April next year. And council occupied buildings, that's down because we had about 1.2 million in there for refurbishment of the ground floor of Cambridge that we're still working on. Cambridge Town Hall, the replacement of the ceilings completed. Water tower, I've got GDC coming up with a plan that we can put to Heritage New Zealand to potentially remove the tank and the steelwork. The house at Vogel Street's been removed and that's been regrassed. Taylor Vogel King, that's the old landfill, that's been completed and pretty much all those sections have been sold by the developer. I think he got around 370, 380,000 per section there. So. C1, C2, C3 growth cells, so that's issues with acquiring that land for the swales, that's ongoing, and the road. APL land, that roundabout's done. Peak Road, that's the next agenda. Oh no, that was last week. So that's.
Philip asked a question about where is that at? Are we waiting for a title to come through or part of a title or a amalgamation or something, Scotty?
So the agreement's all been signed up,
Okay.
And it's now with effectively the roading team to, go ahead and do the work. I understand from talking to Brian Hudson that it's not planned to, construction's not planned until summer next year. But he was working through issues. I think it was largely related to funding availability. But essentially the property stuff's done. Once it's constructed, we'll survey and legalise it and take the land then. So yeah, it's really with the roading team to complete that one.
Chair, did you say construction's going to likely to start?
Next summer?
Next summer?
Yes.
Because it was originally this summer, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Hicks Road, Mungateri, so that's access the new walkway to the northern enclosure. Hinarangi is supposed to be signing that in the next day or so. So hopefully those agreements will be in place and we can get that registered through the Maori Land Court and open before this Christmas. I think we're aiming for last Christmas, so hopefully that'll happen. Lakeview Stormwater, that's still ongoing. Tiamutu to Provincial Cycleway, I think everyone knows where we're at with that. Still trying to get landowner agreements. District-wide 1080 drop happened a month or so ago in the Provincial Forest. Provincial fund, we got 2 bits of work. The ramp's almost complete at the Maori Women's Welfare House and the works are about to start at Hora.
Yeah, John, has there done the building report? Like, have we had the building inspector go through the Maori Women's Welfare House yet?
No, but I've asked the builder who's there building the ramp to give me an assessment of what's required there. so that then once we have that, we can try and make applications somewhere. Get some funding.
Graham, yes.
John, I got a question about the Hora Hall. Used to be the chairman for 10 years out there, so I've got a bit of an interest. We've been asked to monitor it or look after it for the Provincial Growth Fund. Is that correct? What's our involvement there?
It's been a moving target ever since we thought we were just signing off as the landowner. And they were making application.
Yeah.
But as we progressed through the process, MB have made us responsible for ensuring that all those costs and that are relevant. We're required to get an audit done at the end of the project, so it's quite challenging at the moment with regards to some of the prices that we've got compared to the prices we're getting. So we're working through that at the moment.
So are we able to receive some funds from that for our administration of it, or is it just a gift of our building inspectors in your time for the hall?
No, it's an itemised number, so it's broken down for each component, and you can't juggle those components.
Right.
There may be some movement, $2,000 or $3,000 here or there, but on the roof, for example, there was a saving of about 16,000. So that, if you want to use it for anything else, you've got to get provincial MB approval to change, to reallocate it somewhere else.
The reason I ask is because it sounds like from all the paperwork that's been going on that you're spending a hell of a lot of time just to actually get your ducks in a row to proceed it and then monitor it and what have you. And it seems damn unfair on us, to be fair.
In that regard, that we have convinced them to give us some money for project management. So we'll be charging that back to that project. Long-term plan that's ongoing with regards to the process. Activity management plan, the draft is ready to go to audit almost, so that's finally drafted. Housing for the elderly. So we've got the resource consent for the 10 new units of our court, and as I said, that'll go to tender early in the new year. We've got a land use consent in the last couple of days for the acquisition of the Cosmopolitan Club's land and to build 19 units on that site. So I've just got to get a survey and then get it settled. So probably early in the new year, I'd imagine. Cambridge Road, that's sort of put on hold. Levels of service are all on target. And then going forward, we've still got a vacant position. We've advertised it twice, but haven't had any success there. So we've come up with a new plan of attack early in the new year. Band Rotunda is ongoing. I'm hoping to get that out to tender again ASAP. Cambridge Water Tower, as I mentioned, Vale Court drawings will be complete by the end of the month. We're working through the contracts database, so we've got a number of leases that we're trying to get into that system and get those leases up to date. So some of those leases will start flowing through council to get approvals to get them back in place in the coming months. Cambridge, and that's ongoing. Franklin Street, unfortunately, we're going to knock the house over, but because it was pre-1901, it's impacted by the Act, so we've got to get a heritage assessment done and a heritage approval to, if I wait long, a couple more months, it'll probably fall over. But, we're upgrading a couple of units, one in Dellinger and one in Dr. Todd. Looking at the sale of the two properties we've got in Blundell Street, we've got a valuation on that, and we're just looking if it's worthwhile to create two titles there. At the moment, it's not even cross lease, so it's just on one title. So there's a fair bit more value potentially if we subdivide that site. Unformed roads are progressing, and Inglefield Street for sale at the moment. If anyone wants to buy it, deadline sale finishes on the 10th, I think, of December. It's in Parongia, lost on property.
No, thanks for
Going,
that.
going for a,
Got plenty on
drain.
as always. But Bruce, you
John, going back to 1080, I don't know if you know, there was a complaint, a gentleman complained quite vigorously at the Provincial Community Association meeting about lack of consultation. Now, it's nothing to do with us, is it? Doc and the regional council, who does is that right?
yes, Department of Conservation. Yeah, we had a lot of engagement with them.
Yeah.
And I know some people had some issues with the original plans they put out, I think, which they corrected and put them out again. So, yeah, but it's, yeah, it's our land, so we were dealing with it, but they consult and make sure it's carried out appropriately.
I'll just add to that too, that the Te Awamutu Community Board raised a question over a lack of consultation with that community board as well, on account of the area being part of the catchment for the water supply for the town. So I'm not sure where we're at on that. I missed the last meeting. Was there any update, Lou, on that at the time?
Yeah, there was an area excluded from the drop, and they've got to test water quality until they get an appropriate reading. But yeah, basically it's all done by Ministry of Health and Department of Conservation.
okay? Well, thanks very much. If there's no further questions of the recommendation on page 64. Thanks, Elwyn. Thanks, Roger. All in favour? Contrary, no. Thanks, gentlemen. Keep up the good work. There's plenty to do. Okay. Item 8, resolution to exclude the public. Do I have a thanks, Lou? Thanks, Philip. All in favour?